The day Tunde opened his food stall, the sun was already high and hot over the dusty streets of Makoko. The noise of okadas, car horns, and traders filled the air, but inside his small wooden kiosk, everything felt new and hopeful. The sign above his head was hand-painted and a little crooked. Tunde's home taste, sweet, filling, affordable. He stood there in his clean but faded shirt, wiping the same stainless plate again and again, even though it was already shining. His hands were shaking a little. He had spent almost all his savings to make this place real. One big pot, two small pots, one charcoal stove, a plastic table, 3 plastic chairs, and a borrowed cooler from his uncle. He told himself, "This is my beginning. I will not fail." But Tunde knew that life did not always respect promises. Before he owned a stall, Tunde was a kitchen boy in a big roadside restaurant called Mama Fine Chop. For almost 5 years, he worked there from morning till night. He washed plates until his fingers wrinkled. He peeled onions until his eyes burned. He carried heavy sacks of rice and gallons of oil until his back ached. He loved cooking. That was the painful part. The smell of frying garlic, the sound of bubbling stew, the way people smiled when they ate good food, all those things made him happy. Each time he watched the main cook turn a simple pot of rice into jollof that made customers lick their fingers, a fire burned quietly in his chest. He wanted to learn properly. He wanted to become a real cook, not just the boy who washed plates and carried buckets. Many times, when the restaurant was not too busy, he tried to stand close and watch. He tried to ask small questions like, "Auntie Beezy, how much pepper did you put?" Or, "Mama, why are you adding water now?" But most times, Mama Fine Chop would shout from across the kitchen, "Tunde, go and wash those plates. Leave here. You will burn the stew." If he stayed too close, she scolded him in front of everyone. "Young boys of nowadays," she would say loudly. "Small thing, and you want to jump to head chef. Learn to carry plate first." Meanwhile, boys who came after him were already turning the small pots, frying plantain, and serving customers. When they finished in the evenings, they sometimes got tips from people who liked their food. They used that money to buy new shirts, shoes, even small phones. They laughed together after work, scrolling on their screens. Tunde did not laugh with them. His own phone had a cracked screen and a battery that died too fast. Half of his small salary went to his mother in the village. The other half went to rent and transport. Some days, there was nothing left for himself. His mother sold roasted corn by the roadside in their hometown. His younger brother had weak lungs and often fell sick, needing medicine they could hardly afford. Every time his mother called and said, "My son, your brother is coughing again," Tunde felt a sharp pain in his chest. He told himself every night, "One day I will become a big cook. I will open my own restaurant. I will change our story." But that one day always stayed far. One rainy evening, something changed. The clouds were dark and heavy. Water raced down the gutters, carrying plastic bottles and leaves. The restaurant was almost empty because many people stayed indoors. Mama Fine Chop was counting money in the corner with a small frown on her face. Without warning, she clutched her chest and sat down slowly. "What is it, Mama?" Tunde asked, dropping the plate he was washing. "My chest. It is tight," she whispered. Someone rushed to call her son. Another worker ran to get water. They helped her into a chair and later into a car. By the next day, the restaurant was closed. A small note on the door said, "Closed till further notice." Tunde stood in front of the locked door with the other workers. Rainwater still dripped from the roof. "What will happen now?" one girl asked. "Mama is in the hospital," someone else answered. "They say we should wait." Wait. No salary. No work. No food money. No plan. For the first week, Tunde tried to stay calm. He borrowed small money from a friend and bought Gary and beans. The second week was harder. Rent was near. His mother called again. "Tunde, the landlord says if we delay again, he will remove the zinc from our room," she said, her voice shaking. He felt useless. He wanted to shout, but he only said, "I will find something, Mama. I promise." The third week came. The restaurant was still closed. Nobody called the workers. The ones who had a bit of money traveled to other parts of the city to look for jobs. Some went back to their villages. Tunde did not know where to go. Lagos was big, but sometimes it felt like a cage. One night, after another day of walking around and hearing "no vacancy" again and again, he sat on a wooden bench outside his small room. The street was quiet except for the far sound of music from a nearby bar. The smell of fried fish floated in the air. His heart felt heavy. Have I wasted my years? He thought. 5 years of washing plates, and I still cannot call myself a cook. A neighbor named Baba Musa, an old man who sold second-hand shoes, walked slowly toward him, leaning on his stick. He had seen Tunde leave early every morning and return late, tired and silent. He knew the restaurant was closed. "Young man," he said, sitting beside him, "why is your face like someone who swallowed pepper?" Tunde forced a small laugh, but his eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to do again, Baba," he confessed. "The restaurant closed. No money. My family is suffering. I don't even know if I learned anything useful there." Baba Musa looked at him quietly. The street light threw a soft glow on his wrinkled face. "Can you cook?" the old man asked. "Yes, Baba. I watch them always. I know how they fry stew, how they cook jollof, beans, yam. I just never got the chance to be the official cook." "Do you believe in your hands?" Tunde hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I believe I can do it if I get a chance." "Then give yourself the chance," Baba said calmly. "If you wait for that woman to make you, you will wait forever. Start small. Have you not seen how big trees come from small seeds?" Tunde looked at him, surprised. "Start what?" "I have no big money." "Nobody starts big," Baba replied. "Buy a small pot. Find a corner. Cook for the people passing by. If the food is good, they will come back. If you fail, at least you tried with your own hands." That night, Tunde lay on his thin mattress, staring at the ceiling. The sound of rain started again, hitting the zinc roof softly. His mind could not rest. Start small. Use my own hands. His heart was afraid, but something in him woke up. The next week, Tunde used the small money he had managed to save over the years. It was not much, but it was all he had. He rented a tiny wooden stall along a busy street where buses always stopped to drop and pick passengers. The stall was old and smelled of dust. The wooden door leaned to one side. Spiders had built webs in the corners. But when he swept it, washed it, and wiped the small window, it started to look different. It started to look like hope. He bought one second-hand pot and 2 small new ones. He bought a charcoal stove, plates, and spoons. He bought rice, beans, tomatoes, onions, groundnut oil, pepper, salt, and seasoning cubes. Nothing was perfect, but it was his. He painted his sign by himself with blue and red paint. The letters were not straight, but they were bold enough for people to see. Tunde's home taste, sweet, filling, affordable. On the morning he opened, his hands shook as he poured rice into the pot. Charcoal smoke rose into his eyes. Tears came, but he told himself it was only the smoke, not fear. He cooked slowly, tasting the stew again and again, adding pepper and salt with care the way he had seen at Mama Fine Chop. He knew he could not compete with big restaurants, but he wanted every plate leaving his stall to taste like love. The first customers were not strangers. One was a bus conductor who used to see Tunde passing by with his food container when he still worked at Mama Fine Chop. Another was a woman selling fruits in a wheelbarrow. The third was a young tailor from a nearby shop. "How much is your jollof?" the fruit seller asked, looking at his sign. "Just small and 200, he answered shyly. "You will be full." She smiled. "Okay, give me 1 plate. Make it plenty meat, oh." He laughed and served her. When she took the first bite, she closed her eyes briefly. "Ah, this is sweet," she said. "You put village hand inside this food." The bus conductor nodded too as he ate. "Guy, your food go sell. I will be coming every day if you keep it like this." Those words warmed Tunde's heart. For the first time, he felt like a real cook. He watched them eat with joy, one hand on his chest, as if to hold his heart in place. That day, he sold almost half his pot. Not much, but enough to give him small confidence. He returned home tired but smiling. His mother called that night, and when he told her he had opened his own stall, she started crying. "God will bless your hand, my son," she said. "May people look for you the way thirsty people look for water." In the first few weeks, things looked hopeful. Every morning, Tunde swept his stall, cleaned the plates, and arranged his small table and chairs neatly. He came early, before many shops opened. He liked the quiet time, when the air was cool and the sky still soft. Customers started to know him. Some came for jollof rice. Some came for beans and fried plantain. Others came for yam and egg. He did not rush. He did not shout. He served politely and smiled, even when he was tired. Many people praised his food. "Your rice tastes like home," one woman said, licking her spoon. "You don't pack too much oil like others," another man added. "I like it. I feel strong after eating." Tun's chest always felt full when he heard such words. He believed that soon, he would make steady money. He imagined buying a new phone for himself, sending bigger money home, maybe even renting a better room. But after some time, he noticed something strange. The people who came on the first week did not come back quickly. The ones who said, "I will be here tomorrow," did not appear again until maybe 1 week or more. Some did not return at all. At first, Tun told himself they were just busy. He believed that when their stomachs reminded them of his food, they would come back. But as days turned into weeks, his stall stayed quiet for long hours. Only new faces came sometimes, 1 or 2 at a time. One afternoon, he saw his very first customer, the fruit seller, at the junction. Her basket was full of mangoes. Her smile was wide when she saw him. "Ah, Chef Tunde," she called. "Your food still day my mind, oh." He smiled. "Then come and eat again. I've been waiting for you." She laughed and put her hand on her stomach. "The rice you gave me that day was too much. I stayed full from morning till night. Even the next day, I didn't feel hungry early. Today, I just drank Gary. Maybe next week I'll come." Her words hit him in a way she did not know. She meant it as a compliment. But to him, it sounded like a problem. "My food keeps them full for too long. They don't need to come back soon." He began to see the same pattern. The tailor he fed with extra meat said, "Ah, your food is powerful. I don't need to eat again till evening." The bus conductor said, laughing, "I used to buy food twice in a day before, but since I found your place, once is enough." They were happy, but his pocket was not. Reality started to squeeze him. Charcoal price went up. Rice became more expensive. The woman who brought tomatoes on a wheelbarrow increased her price because of transport. Rent time came nearer. His landlord reminded him with a thick voice and a thin smile. "Tunde, my boy, I like your courage. But remember, courage does not pay rent. End of the month, I need my money." At night, Tunde counted his earnings and saw that after buying ingredients, paying for charcoal, and keeping small money for transport, very little remained. Sending money to his mother became harder. Each time she called, he lied a little. "We are managing, Mama. Customers are coming," he said, leaving out the part where many of them came only once. Some days, he reduced his prices to attract more people. It worked a little. New faces appeared, excited to see cheap food. But they too ate, praised him, and disappeared for days. He tried another idea. "If you buy food 3 times in 1 week, you get a free piece of meat," he told some regulars. They smiled and said, "Nice idea." But few of them actually came 3 times. Life was hard. People counted every naira before spending. Slowly, fear began to grow inside him. What if this stall fails? What if I have to close it and go back to washing plates somewhere? What if my family cannot survive? One quiet afternoon, when the street was strangely empty and only one bus had passed in 2 hours, Tun sat inside his stall with his head resting on his folded arms. The smell of cold rice filled the air. Sweat ran down his face, not only from heat, but from worry. He remembered the words he once heard from a man who sold motor parts across the road. The man had laughed loudly one day and said to his friend, "My customers always come back fast. The cheap parts one sell no, they last at all. They must return." Tun had not thought deeply about it then. But now, the memory came back like a whisper. Repeat customers are the secret, he told himself. But what makes customers return fast? He looked at his pots. At the neat, rich stew. At the soft, well-cooked rice. At the beans that filled the plate fully. Maybe I am making the food too good, too filling. Maybe that is why they don't come back quickly. The thought scared him. It also tempted him. What if I change something? Just small. Not to harm, but to make them hungry sooner. To make them feel they need my food again and again. He shook his head quickly. "No," he whispered aloud to himself. "I cannot cheat people. I promised God when I started that I will do honest work." But the fear of rent, of his mother's shaky voice, of his brother's cough, pressed hard against his chest. For many days, he wrestled silently with his thoughts. On some mornings, he woke up strong and decided, "I will keep cooking the right way. God will see me." By afternoon, when the stall stayed empty and his pocket stayed light, another voice whispered, "If you don't do something, this stall will die, and you will die with it." One evening, As the sky turned orange and shops began to close one by one, Tunde walked slowly through the market, buying ingredients with the last cash in his pocket. His eyes fell on a row of small plastic bottles and colorful powders on a table. The woman selling them shouted, "Spice for sweet taste. Seasoning that makes people crave your food. Special oil that makes stew smell like heaven." He stopped in front of her table. His heart beat faster, not because of the smell, but because of the dangerous idea that slowly entered his mind for the first time, not as evil, but as survival. And that was how Tunde's first step toward a shortcut began, quietly, in the middle of a crowded African market, with a tired heart and a hungry dream. For many nights after visiting the market, Tunde sat in his tiny room staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The woman's words echoed inside him. Seasoning that makes people crave your food. He imagined customers rushing back the next day, praising him, filling his stall, helping him grow. He imagined sending money home proudly, buying medicine for his brother, paying his rent on time, and finally breathing without fear. But each time hope lifted him, guilt dragged him back down. His mother always said, "A good name is better than gold, my son." Yet gold was what he needed now. Good name could not pay for charcoal, or tomatoes, or rent. And so, every night, his heart fought with his conscience, like two strong men pulling him in opposite directions. The next Monday morning, he arrived at the market early, long before the crowd grew thick. He walked quickly, almost as if he was running from his own thoughts. But when he reached the table of herbs and spices, he stopped. The same woman was there, arranging her bottles. She looked at him and smiled knowingly, like she had been expecting him. "Young chef," she said, shaking a small brown bottle. "This one makes people miss your food. Just small, and they will think of you again and again." Tunde's chest tightened. "Is it safe?" he asked quietly. "Huh, very safe," the woman said quickly, but her eyes shifted too fast. "It is just strong flavoring. All the big restaurants use something to stand out." He wanted to ask more, but shame held his tongue. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out the last cash he had. He bought the bottle and hid it in his pocket immediately. As he walked away, he felt as if the whole market was watching him, even though no one cared. Every step back to his stall felt heavier than the last, like guilt was hanging on his shoulders. Back at the stall, he placed the small bottle on the table and stared at it for a long time. It looked harmless, just a tiny brown bottle with no label. But Tunde knew this decision was not small. It was a crossroad, a line he wasn't sure he should cross. Still, his mind kept whispering, "Just try small. You are not hurting anyone. You only want your business to survive." With a deep breath, he opened the bottle. A sharp smell hit his nose, strong and unusual, like pepper mixed with something chemical. He dipped one fingertip, tasted it slightly, then quickly spat it out. The flavor was powerful, almost burning. "Maybe this is what makes people crave more," he told himself, trying to calm his worried heart. When he cooked that morning, he added just a tiny drop of the mixture into the stew, so small that he convinced himself it did not count as cheating. As the stew bubbled, a different smell rose from the pot. Richer, stronger, almost tempting. His stomach tightened. "Maybe this will bring them back faster," he whispered, even though he didn't know if he was convincing himself or fighting himself. The first customer that day was a young mason who often passed by. He ordered jollof rice with beans. Tunde served him as he always did, pretending everything was normal. The man took the first spoonful and paused, eyes widening slightly. Tunde, this rice sweet past the last one," he said, swallowing fast. "What did you add?" "Nothing new," Tunde said with a forced smile, pretending to wipe the counter. "Maybe today's tomatoes are sweeter." The mason nodded and ate quickly, almost too quickly. When he finished, he drank water and wiped his mouth. "I will come back tomorrow," he said with excitement. Tunde's heart skipped. Tomorrow. Not next week. Not when I'm hungry again. Tomorrow. More customers came. A bus driver. A seamstress. A pregnant woman from the nearby street. They all said the same thing. "Your stew tastes different today. This rice, get one kind sweet. I feel like eating more." Tunde's fear slowly melted into relief, then into confidence, and then into something more dangerous. Belief that he had found the solution to all his problems. By the third day of using the mixture, customers began returning faster. One man who normally ate once a week came back after only 2 days, saying he had been thinking of Tunde's food since morning. Another woman returned complaining that after eating at another stall, she didn't feel satisfied. "Your food is now my favorite," she said, smiling shyly. Money started flowing more steadily. Tunde bought a new wooden stool, extra spoons, and replaced his old pot with a bigger one. He even bought a small standing fan to keep the heat away. His confidence grew like a plant watered daily. Now when he cooked, he added the mixture without hesitation, each time a little more than before. The fear that once held him back faded into silence. But soon, subtle signs began to show. One afternoon, a man returned looking uncomfortable. "Your rice was sweet yesterday," he said. "But afterward my stomach felt somehow hot and empty at the same time. I thought it was the weather, but it didn't stop." Tunde laughed nervously. "Maybe the sun was too much. Drink more water next time." He spoke quickly, trying not to meet the man's eyes. The man nodded slowly, though he looked unconvinced, then ordered food again. Tunde added the mixture as usual. Another day, a pregnant woman returned holding her stomach. "Chef, your food tastes like heaven," she said quietly. "But after 2 hours, I was hungry again. Is it normal?" Tunde's heart jumped. He forced a smile. "Pregnancy hunger is different," he said. "Eat small again." She nodded and ate, praising the taste. More people began returning faster than usual, complaining of sudden hunger, dizziness, or craving. Nothing serious enough to cause alarm, just strange enough to raise tiny questions. But the questions never became accusations. People trusted him. They trusted his smile, his gentle hands, his humble attitude. Tunde told himself these were normal things. He ignored the sharp guilt that sometimes woke him at night. Instead, he focused on the money he saved, the growing crowd in front of his stall, and his mother's joyful voice when he sent more money home. But success is a funny thing. It doesn't make you full. It makes you hungrier. Within 2 weeks, Tunde was no longer content with tiny drops of the mixture. He added more each day, convinced it would make customers return even faster. His food became stronger, more tempting, but also more dangerous. Still, nobody suspected a thing. Not yet. Word spread quickly through the dusty streets of Makoko. "Tunde's food keeps calling you back." People laughed when they said it, thinking it was just a joke. They did not know the truth behind those words. And in the center of the busy crowd, Tunde stood smiling, stirring a pot of jollof that smelled richer than ever, unaware that his shortcut was slowly opening a door he would not be able to close. Within weeks, Tunde's food stall became one of the busiest corners in Makoko. By afternoon, people formed a small line in front of his wooden table, chatting and laughing as they waited. Drivers parked their buses nearby, just to grab a plate. Market women left their stalls briefly to buy his beans and plantain. Even office workers from 2 streets away started coming during lunch break. Tunde felt like a rising star in the neighborhood. Whenever he arrived in the morning, customers greeted him with cheerful voices. "Chef Tunde, today's rice ready?" "Oga cook, make my portion big o." He would laugh, pretending the attention didn't make him proud, even though his heart swelled like rising dough. But behind the cheerful noise, something else was quietly growing, something Tunde wasn't paying attention to. At first, the complaints were small. A customer would return rubbing their stomach, saying, "Your rice was sweet, but after 2 hours, I felt empty again." Another would say, "Chef, your beans day hook me oh. I feel hungry too quick." A few people even claimed they felt a hot sensation in their stomach hours after eating. But Tunde brushed it aside. Lego's sun was harsh. People were stressed. Hunger played games sometimes. Nobody blamed him directly, so he felt safe. Then came the first real sign. One Monday morning, a man walked into his stall looking pale. His shirt was soaked in sweat, even though the day was still cool. He sat heavily on the plastic chair. "Tunde, morning. Please give me water." Tunde rushed to get a sachet of water. As the man drank, his hands trembled slightly. "Are you okay?" Tunde asked, feeling a tightness in his stomach. The man wiped his mouth slowly. "Since Saturday, I have been feeling somehow. After I ate here, I became hungry again too fast. Then my stomach started cramping. Not serious, but uncomfortable. My wife said maybe it's pepper, but it feels unusual." Tunde tried to smile, but his palms began sweating. "Maybe you need rest. Sometimes the body reacts to different food combinations." The man nodded slowly, even though he didn't look convinced. But instead of leaving, he ordered food again, saying he trusted Tunde's hands more than anywhere else. Relief washed over Tunde, but it was a temporary comfort. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't normal. Still, the money kept coming. Customers returned, even when they complained about strange craving or discomfort. They believed it was stress, the weather, or their own bodies. No one suspected the food. No one suspected him. And that was the dangerous part. The more people returned, the more confident Tunde became. The guilt that once kept him awake at night slowly turned into silence. He told himself he wasn't harming anyone. He believed the mixture only made the food stronger, more enjoyable. He convinced himself customers were fine because they kept coming back. The mind can be a powerful liar when survival and greed hold the steering wheel. His small stall no longer looked like a struggling business. It looked like a rising restaurant. He bought a bigger charcoal stove, 2 new pots, and a metal shelf to arrange his plates. He painted the stall again and rewrote the signboard. Now it read, "Tunde's Home Taste, better than before." People clapped when they saw it. Businesses nearby noticed his success. Some even sent their workers to buy lunch from him daily. Tunde felt unstoppable, but every rising sun has a shadow behind it. One afternoon, a regular customer named Mama Saad walked into his stall, rubbing her forehead. "Ah, Tunde, your food sweet yesterday, oh. But after some hours, I felt weak. My body was shaking like I needed to eat again fast." Tunde forced a laugh. "Maybe it's tiredness." She said slowly. "Maybe." She ordered food again, but her eyes lingered on him a bit longer than usual. Later that same week, a group of young boys came by. They were noisy, laughing and pushing each other. But one of them looked uneasy. "Oga Tunde," he said seriously, "after I chop your rice on Tuesday, my stomach day do somehow. I no go lie, I felt one strange hunger again after only 1 hour. What did you put inside the stew?" Tunde's heart skipped. He quickly smiled. "Nothing new. Maybe your body is changing. You're growing." The boys laughed, but the uneasy one wasn't fully convinced. Still, he bought food and left. At night, Tunde washed his pots quietly, alone in the dim light of his stall. The street was almost empty except for passing motorcycles and distant conversations. He stared at the brown bottle hidden inside his drawer. It wasn't half full anymore. He had used a lot more than he planned. The smell had become familiar to him, sharp, addictive, unsettling. Something inside him whispered, "Stop before it gets worse." But another voice, louder and hungrier, said, "If you stop now, everything will fall apart. Do you want to go back to washing plates? Do you want your family to suffer again?" That louder voice always won. But fate doesn't stay silent forever. One Thursday morning, as Tunde stirred the stew, a young woman named Amina walked into his stall. She was a tailor who worked nearby, and she was always soft-spoken and polite. Today, she looked tired. Her eyes were slightly red. She sat gently and placed her bag on her lap. "Tunde," she said softly, "I came to talk, not to eat." "Something is wrong." His heartbeat quickened. "Wrong? What happened?" Amina swallowed slowly. "Every time I eat here, I feel okay at first. But later, I feel a strange craving. My stomach gets tight. Not painful, just uneasy. I didn't suspect you at first. But last night, after I ate at another place, nothing happened. The feeling only comes when I eat your food." Tunde felt his throat tighten. He forced a smile. "Maybe you are allergic to something?" Amina shook her head gently. "No, I've been eating rice and stew all my life. But this one is different. And I'm not the only one feeling it. I asked 2 women near my shop. They felt the same." Fear stabbed through Tunde's chest. But before he could respond, Amina placed her hand on the table, looking into his eyes. "Tunde, I don't want to accuse you. I just want to know, is everything okay with your food?" Her question was gentle, but it hit like a heavy blow. For a moment, the noise of the street disappeared. The boiling pot stopped bubbling in his ears. The world froze around him. He wanted to tell the truth. His mouth opened slightly. His lips trembled, but fear held him tight, like a rope around his neck. "Everything is fine," he whispered. Amina stared at him for a long moment. Her eyes were sad, not angry. She slowly stood up, picked her bag, and said quietly, "I hope so, Tunde. Because if something is wrong, it will come out eventually." She walked away without looking back. That night, Tunde could not sleep. He tossed on his thin mattress, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling again. Amina's words repeated in his head like a drumbeat. "If something is wrong, it will come out eventually." The next morning, He arrived at the stall early. But something felt different. Customers still came, but some of them watched him strangely. Some whispered quietly. Some asked careful questions. Even children noticed. A little girl walked up with her mother and said loudly, "Mama, is this the place that makes your stomach hot?" Tunde froze. The mother shushed her quickly, embarrassed, but the damage was done. People standing nearby heard. Some looked at him suspiciously. Others exchanged quick glances. A tiny crack had appeared in the wall of trust. And cracks never stay small. Tunde felt something cold move inside his chest. Something like fear, but darker. He knew the storm was coming. He just didn't know when. But fate had already started walking toward him. And she was not in a hurry. The next few days dragged like heavy chains around Tunde's ankles. Even the sun seemed hotter, the air heavier, the noise of the street sharper. Each time he stirred his pot or served a plate of rice, he felt eyes on him, watching, judging, wondering. The cracks in trust were growing, widening quietly like a tear in old cloth. But the true trouble began with someone no one expected, an older woman called Mama Risi. She was not a regular customer. She lived across the street and sold roasted groundnuts by the roadside. She was known for her loud voice and quick temper, but she also had a sharp mind and noticed things others ignored. For weeks, she had been watching Tunde's stall, not out of suspicion, but curiosity. She had seen how people kept returning, how they sometimes came back looking restless, how they often complained quietly about strange hunger while still ordering more. One morning, she walked into Tunde's stall and greeted him with a small smile. "My son, good morning. Give me small jollof rice. No meat." Tunde nodded, relieved that someone was ordering silently. He served her and watched as she took a bite. She chewed slowly, thoughtfully, almost too carefully. Her brows tightened slightly, and she swallowed. She murmured. "This rice, get one special taste." Tunde forced a laugh. "Yes, Mama, I improved my recipe." But Mama Risi remained quiet, eating each spoonful as if studying it. When she finished, she wiped her mouth, paid calmly, and left without another word. Tunde watched her cross the street with a strange feeling in his stomach, a feeling he couldn't name but feared. That evening, when the street became quieter and shops started closing, Mama Risi sat outside her small house fanning herself. Two women stopped to buy groundnuts from her and began complaining about feeling unusual after eating at Tunde's stall. They didn't blame him. They blamed the weather, their bodies, stress from work. But Mama Risi didn't believe in coincidence. She leaned closer and asked questions. When does the feeling start? How long does it last? Does it happen only after eating his food? The women answered honestly. Their answers matched too well. Before long, Mama Risi's eyes narrowed with suspicion. She had lived long enough to know when something was wrong. She had eaten food from many cooks in her life, sweet, bitter, spicy, oily, but she had never tasted something that left a strange emptiness afterward. She decided she would return the next day, not as a customer, but as a witness. Meanwhile, Tunde spent the night tossing on his mattress. Every breath felt heavy. Every thought turned dark. He kept seeing Amina's sad eyes, hearing her voice asking, "Is everything okay with your food?" For the first time since he bought the mysterious mixture, Tunde felt real fear. Fear that he had gone too far. Fear that he couldn't turn back even if he wanted to. He sat up, held his head in his hands, and whispered, "God, please help me. I didn't mean to harm anyone." But remorse without action is just noise inside the heart. When morning came, he went to the stall early, intending to stop using the mixture. He told himself, just cook normal food today. No secrets. No shortcuts. He even cleaned the pot extra carefully, washing it as if the guilt could be scrubbed away. But then the reality returned. The rising rent, his mother's needs, his brother's sickness, the pressure to maintain success. And the fear whispered in his ear, if your food becomes ordinary again, customers will leave. You will lose everything. His hand trembled as he opened the brown bottle again. He hesitated, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Only small. Just very small." He added a few drops to the stew. His heart pounded, but his desperation was louder than his conscience. By the time customers arrived, the stew was already bubbling with the same suspicious smell. Around noon, Mama Risi returned. This time she didn't buy anything. She simply stood near the stall watching him. Her arms were crossed, her eyes sharp. She looked at his hands, his pots, his movements. She noticed the tiny bottle he kept in the drawer, something she had never seen before in a normal food stall. At one point, when Tunde thought no one was looking, he opened the drawer, took the bottle, and added something quickly into the stew. It was small, just a drop, but it wasn't invisible. Mama Risi's eyes widened. She did not say a word. She walked away quietly, but her mind was already racing. She spent the rest of the day gathering information. She talked to mothers, old men, bus drivers, market sellers, anyone who regularly ate at Tunde's stall. She asked questions gently, pretending she was only curious. The answers were almost identical: strange hunger, stomach heat, sudden craving, dizziness, discomfort. Then she asked the question that turned suspicion into certainty. Do these things happen when you eat anywhere else? Every single person said no. That evening, she gathered 3 women who had complained before: Amina, Mama Saad, and a seamstress named Idohan. They met at Mama Saada's shop after closing time. The sky was dark, and the air smelled of rain. The women sat with serious faces as Mama Risi explained what she saw. He is adding something to the food, she said firmly. I saw it with my own eyes. And it is not normal seasoning. Amina trembled. I knew something was wrong. I felt it in my body. But I didn't want to accuse him without proof. Idohan gasped. So that's why my stomach keeps reacting. I thought it was just stress. Mama Saad shook her head slowly. But why would he do that? He seems like a nice boy. Mama Risi sighed deeply. Desperation, my sister. Poverty can push a person into darkness. But no matter the reason, people are suffering. Silence filled the room. Then Amina spoke softly but firmly. We cannot keep quiet. Something must be done. The women agreed to confront Tunde. Not to fight him, but to demand the truth. The next day, they arrived at the stall together. Other customers were there too, and when they saw the serious expressions on the women's faces, they stayed curious. Makoko was a place where news traveled on the wind, fast and loud. Amina stepped forward first. Tunde, she said calmly, we need to talk. Tunde's heart dropped into his stomach. He knew this moment had been chasing him. Now it had caught up. What is wrong? He stammered. Show us what is in that small brown bottle, Mama Risi said loudly. The stall fell silent instantly. People stopped eating. Some froze mid-bite. Others stepped closer. Tunde felt his knees weaken. Sweat rolled down his face. He grabbed the edge of the counter to keep himself steady. There is nothing inside, he whispered. Then bring it out, Amina said, her voice shaky but brave. If it is normal seasoning, let us see it. Tunde looked around desperately. He saw distrust in their eyes. He saw fear. He saw anger. He saw disappointment. And for the first time, he saw himself, not as a struggling young man, but as someone who had crossed a dangerous line. His hand moved slowly toward the drawer. Everyone watched. The truth was about to escape, and once released, it would never go back. The wooden stall grew painfully silent as Tunde's trembling hand reached toward the drawer. Every eye in the crowd followed his movement. Even the surrounding noise of Makoko, the honking okadas, shouting traders, and children playing in the dirt, seemed to pause. Sweat rolled down his forehead and slipped into his eyes, burning slightly, but he didn't blink. His world had narrowed down to one small brown bottle hidden inside a cheap wooden drawer. He could feel the fear rising inside him like hot steam trapped in a pot. His fingers hovered over the drawer's handle. His heart pounded so loud he could barely hear the murmurs around him. Bring it out, Mama Risi repeated, her voice calm but firm. Tunde, Amina said softly. If you hide it, you will lose everything. Tell the truth. Her voice nearly broke him. With a shaky breath, he opened the drawer. Inside was the bottle, the same bottle that had brought him customers, money, and temporary success, and the same bottle that was now about to destroy him. He held it tightly in his hand, as if hoping it could suddenly disappear. Show us, someone in the crowd said. His fingers squeezed the bottle. His lips trembled. He opened his mouth to speak, but his voice refused to come out. When he finally looked up, he saw judgment, fear, anger, and even worse, disappointment, staring back at him. He could no longer run. This, he whispered, his voice cracking, is what I used. His confession was barely louder than wind, but it carried enough weight to shake everyone. The crowd gasped. Some people stepped back. Others moved closer. A mother covered her young daughter's ears as though the truth itself was too heavy for a child to hear. What is inside? Amina asked. Tunde swallowed hard. It's a flavoring mixture. Something the woman in the market sold me. She said it makes people enjoy food more. I only used small. Mama Risi's eyes narrowed. Small does not make stomach burn. Small does not make people dizzy. Small does not make people crave food in strange ways. Tunde's shoulders sagged like soaked clothes. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't mean to harm anyone, he said, voice shaking. I just wanted my stall to survive. I wanted to support my family. I was afraid customers would not come back. I made a mistake. People began muttering. The anger grew like a wave. You used us. You poisoned us. Do you want to kill people for money? You think hunger is a joke? Tunde's throat tightened. He felt trapped, like a bird in a cage with no way out. But the worst part was the guilt. It sat heavy on his chest, suffocating him. A man stepped forward, rubbing his stomach. I thought it was malaria making me weak every time I ate here. So it was your secret ingredient. Another woman cried softly. My son kept complaining after eating here. You made me think something was wrong with him. Their voices cut deeper than knives. Tunde felt exposed, stripped of dignity, swallowed by shame. He wiped his tears, but they kept falling. Suddenly, someone shouted from the back, "Let us smell it. Open the bottle." The pressure grew. People nodded angrily. The circle tightened around him. Open it. Let us see. Prove it's safe. Or use it on yourself. Tunde's breath caught. His hands trembled violently. He stared at the bottle, his heartbeat shaking his body. I can't, he whispered. Why? Mama Saad demanded. If it is harmless, why don't you open it? He held the bottle close to his chest, as if trying to protect himself from their accusations. Because, he said, crying harder, because I don't know what is truly inside. I trusted the woman without thinking. I was desperate. I shouldn't have done it. That confession was the match that lit the fire. The crowd erupted into shouts. So you don't even know what you fed us? Do you want to kill us? You think our lives are cheap? This boy must face the police. People surged forward, furious. Some pointed fingers in his face. Others moved as if ready to drag him away. But just when the chaos was about to explode, Amina suddenly stepped in front of Tunde, raising her hands. Stop, she shouted. Her voice cut through the noise. Everyone froze. She turned around slowly, facing the crowd. We are angry, yes. We feel betrayed, yes. But causing violence won't solve anything. We need the truth. We need justice, not chaos. Mama Risi stepped beside her. Yes, we will take him to the community elders first. Let them decide. If the matter must go to police, they will choose the proper way. Allow wisdom to handle this. The rage in the crowd simmered slowly. They were still angry, still shaken, but they listened. No one dared argue with Mama Risi. Her words carried weight in the community. Two men stepped forward. We will escort him to the elders. Tunde's legs nearly collapsed. He could barely stand. But he nodded. Fighting was useless. Running was impossible. Accepting the consequences was the only path left. They took the bottle from him carefully, holding it with cloth as if afraid it might burn. People followed closely behind as they walked through the streets toward the community hall. Children peered from doorways. Traders whispered to one another. Even passers-by stopped to stare. It felt like a public shame parade, and Tunde was in the center of it. Inside the community hall, the air was cooler. Wooden benches faced a long table where 3 community elders sat. The oldest, Padroji, leaned forward with his walking stick, frowning as he looked at the crowd. What happened here? He asked. Everyone started speaking at once, voices overlapping, accusations flying in the air like arrows. Quiet, Mama Risi shouted. Let him speak. The hall fell silent again. Tunde stood before the elders, shaking. His eyes were swollen from crying. He couldn't lift his head. Speak, son, Padroji said gently. What have you done? Tunde took a deep breath. His voice trembled as he recounted everything, from his struggles, fear of failure, the market woman, the brown bottle, to how he kept adding the mixture out of desperation. He didn't hide anything. By the time he finished, tears were running down his cheeks. The elders listened in silence. When he ended, Padroji sighed heavily. Tunde, your suffering does not justify harming others. Even if you didn't intend to poison people, your actions were dangerous. A shortcut that destroys others is not a shortcut. It is a trap. Those words hit him harder than any insult could. The second elder, Mama Etoro, spoke softly. Do you know how many people trusted you? Do you know how many families eat from your stall daily? Trust is more precious than money. When trust breaks, it does not mend easily. Tunde nodded, sobbing silently. The third elder turned to the crowd. You were harmed. Your complaints are valid. What shall we do? Should he face the police? Voices murmured. Some wanted justice. Some wanted punishment. Some only wanted answers. But Amina stepped forward again. Let him make things right. Let him stop completely. Let him pay for those who felt ill. Let him clean his stall and start again properly, if we allow him. He needs to learn, not rot in a cell. Mama Risi nodded. Let him face consequences, but not destruction. A ruined life cannot fix our pain. After a tense discussion, the elders reached a decision. Tunde would compensate those affected, stop using the mixture immediately, and go through community supervision for weeks. If he ever repeated such behavior, the case would go straight to the police. The punishment was heavy, but it was mercy compared to jail. When the meeting ended, the crowd slowly dispersed. But Tunde remained standing, weak and ashamed. Amina walked up to him, her eyes soft but firm. Tunde, she said quietly, you disappointed us. But you can rise again. Only if you choose honesty this time. He nodded, tears falling freely. For the first time, he saw the full weight of what he had done. And the road to redemption looked long, but possible. The day after the judgment, Tunde returned to his stall long before sunrise. The sky was still dark, the air cold, and the street empty except for a lonely stray dog digging through a pile of rubbish. Makoko always woke up early, but today, the world felt quiet, almost too quiet. Tunde approached his stall slowly, each step heavy with shame. When he reached the small wooden structure that had once filled him with pride, he stopped and stared at it, feeling something twist painfully inside his chest. The stall looked different now, not physically, but in meaning. It was no longer a sign of his rising dream. It now reminded him of the moment he allowed fear to push him into darkness. He touched the wooden counter gently, running his fingers over the familiar surface. His hands remembered all the mornings he prepared food with hope, and the evenings he closed with worry. They also remembered stirring stew with the dangerous mixture that had almost destroyed him. He unlocked the stall and stepped inside. The faint smell of old stew lingered in the air. He opened the drawer and stared at the empty space where the bottle once sat. The elders had taken it for disposal. Many people had asked what was inside it, but no one really knew. Some said it was a chemical appetite stimulant. Some said it was a concentrated flavor enhancer meant for industrial food companies, not street cooking. Others whispered that the woman who sold it must have known it was harmful. Whatever it was, it no longer mattered. What mattered was the damage done. Tunde began cleaning the stall. Not a simple wipe down, but a deep, painful cleansing, as if he was trying to wash away his guilt. He scrubbed the counter, washed every plate, cleaned the pots, swept the floor, dusted the shelves, and even washed the walls. He worked until sweat soaked his shirt and his hands ached. When he finished, the place looked almost new, but the ache in his heart remained. By mid-morning, people began passing by. Some slowed down to look at him. Others shook their heads and continued walking. Some whispered to each other. A few laughed mockingly. Tunde kept his eyes down, refusing to defend himself. Every reaction was deserved. He knew it. Around noon, Baba Musa, the old man who once encouraged him to start small, appeared. He walked slowly with his wooden stick, standing beside the stall without saying a word. Tunde couldn't lift his head. Shame pressed him down like a heavy stone. After a long silence, Baba Musa finally spoke. My son, when I told you to start small, I didn't tell you to lose yourself along the way. Tunde's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't speak. The old man sighed deeply. People fall, even the strongest. But a real man stands up again, not by stepping on others, but by correcting his own steps. Tunde swallowed hard. I failed, Baba. No, Baba Musa said softly. You sinned. But failing is not the end. What matters is what you become after the fall. Those words pierced Tunde's heart. He nodded quietly, wiping his eyes. Over the next few days, he continued coming to his stall, not to cook, but to clean and reflect. Children pointed at him as they ran past. Adults avoided his eyes. A few still spoke harshly when they saw him. He accepted all of it with humility. The elders visited once to ensure he was following their instructions. They gave him a list of the people who experienced discomfort and the compensation they required. It was a long list. The money he had saved would not be enough. But Tunde didn't complain. He went around apologizing to each person in person, carrying small envelopes with whatever he could offer. Some accepted kindly, some accepted coldly. Some refused to take money at all, telling him the apology was enough. Others shouted at him, calling him wicked or foolish. Tunde bowed his head each time, repeating, "I am sorry." After a week, the elders allowed him to open his stall again, under close observation. They made an announcement that he had confessed, apologized, and compensated the victims. The community agreed to give him one more chance. But they also warned that if anything suspicious happened again, he would be handed over to the authorities without delay. The morning he reopened his stall, Tunde felt like a beginner again, nervous, shaky, and unsure. He cooked slowly, carefully, using only natural ingredients. The food tasted simpler than before, less intense, but clean and honest. Hours passed. Not a single customer entered. He kept cooking anyway. By early afternoon, he wondered if anyone would ever trust him again. He sat on his stool, feeling his throat tighten. Then, suddenly, a shadow appeared in front of him. He looked up and saw a woman holding a handbag. She smiled gently. It was Amina. "Is the rice ready?" she asked softly. Tunde's mouth opened in surprise. You want to eat here?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "I believe everyone deserves another chance, especially someone who is willing to correct his mistakes." His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," he whispered. She sat down, and he served her slowly, his hands steady for the first time in days. As she ate, she smiled. "This is good. Simple. Clean. Honest." Tunde exhaled shakily. "I will never take shortcuts again." As the day went on, 2 more old customers entered hesitantly. One woman bought beans. A man bought yam and egg. They didn't smile, but they didn't accuse him either. Tunde served them with respect and gratitude. Over the next few weeks, more people returned, not in large numbers, not quickly, but steadily. They came because they saw his change. They came because honesty is a slow seed, but it grows strong roots. They came because they realized everyone is capable of falling, but only a few rise with humility. Months later, Tunde's stall was no longer the busiest, but it was stable. People trusted him again, not blindly, but with careful hope. His food was honest, his smile genuine, his heart lighter. He sent money home regularly, even if smaller than before. His mother prayed for him every night, telling him, "A name is better than money, my son." One evening, as he closed his stall, Tunde wrote something on a paper and pinned it inside his drawer, the same drawer that once held the dangerous bottle. It read, "No more shortcuts. If it takes time, I will wait. Honest hands always win in the end." And deep inside his heart, he finally believed it.